What's up, everyone? I'm Grant Cohn, and this is Mondays with Vish Kumaran. The Niners just traded Kwon Alexander to the Saints for a 5th-round pick and Kiko Alonso. Vish, what do we make of this? What do you make of this?
I thought it was a great move. I think Kwon Alexander's contract has been something that has been a gripe amongst fans, media, maybe even players alike. And I think it was the right move to move off of his contract. I don't think that it's an indicator that the Niners are tanking or anything of the sort, because there were rumors during the draft that they were interested in moving Kwon Alexander at the time. And it's a tough contract to move, so they might not have gotten the right deal. They did restructure his contract before the season for this season, so they clearly had issues with how much he was getting paid. And I think when they signed him, they did not know that Fred Warner would become what Fred Warner has become, and that Dre Greenlaw would be a very, very viable number 2 linebacker.
They were still trying to replace Reuben Foster.
Right.
Remember?
So he was the right signing at the time. Maybe they overpaid him a bit, but that's what you do in free agency. And it was a product of them missing on Reuben Foster. But now that linebacker room is shored up, it looks like Flanagan Foles they really like because he's been on this roster. Azeez Al-Shaair, they keep talking about how much they like him. I thought he played really well versus New England, one of his better games. And he's fast and he hits. So in that case, I think that this was the right move. I'm glad that they were able to finally find a suitor to take his contract. I wish they got a higher pick, but I can't complain.
Yeah, and just a couple of days ago, I put a video on YouTube. Is it a good thing if Kwon Alexander plays against the Seahawks? Now, maybe they could have used him, but I think we've been going back and forth for a few weeks. Like, does he have a positive impact? He clearly makes an impact. He's all over the field. But is that in a good way? And I think both of us were kind of feeling like maybe not. And now it's interesting that the Niners, that's the first guy they got rid of. I was thinking Jimmy Ward, Jaquiski Tartt, Jimmy Garoppolo. No, this is the guy. You start with, obviously you would start with D Ford if you could, but he's not tradable. Kwon Alexander is. Good thing that the Saints are a little desperate and they need to take on someone like Kwon and his
And he is a good player. I think that we kind of overstate Kwon Alexander's shortcomings. Like, there are a lot of things he does well, and he might be the most athletic linebacker in football. Him, Deion Jones, those kind of guys. Like, Kwon Alexander is a legit 4.45, 4.4 kind of linebacker. So he does have talent, and there are things he does really well. He is good in coverage. I think the big issue with Kwon Alexander has been that contract and the fact that Fred Warner makes a 3rd-round pick salary, and Dre Greenlaw, who approximates Kwon Alexander's value more than enough and does certain things better, is paid like tens of millions of dollars less, which basically made Kwon Alexander expendable. The Saints, I think it was a good move for them. They got a good player, and they're clearly all in on this year, because next year they're probably going to be done because Breeze is done, and it's going to be Taysom Hill probably at quarterback because that contract is immovable, and a bunch of people are going to get cut as salary dumps. But that's going to be something different that's probably a different conversation away from the 49ers. But yeah, I think John Lynch, Parag Marath, they did a phenomenal job being able to move what was seemingly an unmovable contract.
Absolutely. They got a draft pick. They needed a draft pick. They shedded some salary cap space. Who knows? I mean, maybe the Niners want to use that space. Maybe the Niners feel like we were interpreting this as maybe they're sellers at the deadline. Maybe they just needed a little space so they could buy something. Who knows?
Right. Right. And if you remember, the first time I came on your show, we did a buyer-seller topic, and it was right after the Nick Bosa injury, and we had concerns of this team being what they wanted to be just because of losing Nick Bosa. Now, a lot of different things has happened since then, but I think both of us said that D Ford and Kwon Alexander were basically immovable. So we were talking guys like Tartt and guys of that sense, but now they did a phenomenal job by being able to move Kwon Alexander. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think it indicates tanking by any means, because I think that the better option in general would be to have Dre Greenlaw as your starting linebacker at this price rather than having Kwon Alexander as his price, regardless of whether you're going to be a Super Bowl team, a mid-tier team, or anything.
Do you think the Niners make any more moves, or do you think they should before the deadline, which is tomorrow?
Yeah, I would make a couple more moves.
What would you like to see him do?
I mean, it comes down to how they value compensatory pick versus what they're going to get for a guy. So it's that's going to be the balance, and they're going to have to make those decisions in a very short time here. So a guy
Tart
like
would exactly
right. A guy like Tart, we've talked about him. He's a very, very good football player. This is not about in how he is as a football player. This is more the fact that they probably cannot keep Jaquiski Tart next year. It's just not. It just doesn't make sense. The money is not there.
Cap's going down.
He's a good enough player where he's going to get a mid-tier deal somewhere, and he's probably going to do well where he goes.
He's worth more than Kwon.
Right. Oh, surely. He's a better player than Kwon, in my opinion. As a strong safety, I think he's better than Kwon is as a middle linebacker, a weak side linebacker. So in that sense, I think that maybe you can move Jaquiski Tart, and it comes down to how you value. Well, you probably have to ask around and see what is Tart's value as if he gets signed as a free agent. And if you get a third round compensatory for him, then yeah, you would rather have him play out the season and pick 10 spots lower than get a third round pick for him through trade. So it's just weighing that. I think that's what it comes down to.
Okay, let's change subjects a little bit. We're going to get to Jimmy Garoppolo. I promise. I went on a whole rant with Jimmy Garoppolo. Vish is going to have his take. But before we get there, we want to defend the 49ers coaching staff a bit, because that was an embarrassment that happened yesterday. It was an embarrassing loss for the entire franchise. But I think it's fair to give a little bit of defense to the two coaches, Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. Why don't you start, Vish?
Yeah, I want to start off with the guy I've been particularly hard on. Unfortunately, I haven't had a platform to be hard on him, so people don't know. But I've not been a Robert Saleh guy throughout his tenure as the 49ers defensive coordinator. When he first came, my thing always was, and it was a little constant, that, hey, you run the Seattle scheme, but you don't do much else. What makes you a better defensive coordinator than the 6 other guys who run the Seattle scheme? And even last year, when people were calling him the best defensive coordinator in football, yeah, he had a couple more blitzes. Yeah, Grant. He had a couple more blitzes on third down, and they were running more quarters coverage, and they were doing a little bit more. So there was definitely credit to him. He was a good defensive coordinator.
Some growth.
But I asked the question, what's the difference between him and, I think his name is Todd Wash, who was the defensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2017, whose base defense was basically the Seattle scheme. Similar talent. I think Jacksonville had more talent, to be honest, but they also had a worse offense, so their defense was put in a lot worse positions. And I really thought that it was a conversation. Well, fast forward to 2020, I was wrong. Robert Saleh is very good at what he does. I thought week 1, I was a little critical of him. I thought week 1 was a little rough, but I think since then he's done a phenomenal job. I do not put yesterday on him. There was stuff that we talked about the week, I think last week. It sucks talking about previewing a game on Monday because a lot changes during the week.
True.
But we did talk about it, and we said, look, Russell Wilson is the best quarterback in the NFL. DK Metcalf is a super freak. You can do a lot of things on defense, and they might still beat you. And that's what happened yesterday. He did adjust. From my TV eye, it looked like Marcel Harris was shaded over DK Metcalf for a lot of that game. DK Metcalf had that monster first quarter, and he did make that adjustment. But the problem is Marcel Harris was literally 10 yards from the ball. They throw an 8-yard slant to Metcalf. Harris hits him as hard as he can, and Harris is injured. DK Metcalf is just a freak. And then they throw comebacks where you don't really have safety help on the comeback. And Russell Wilson's timing and accuracy is too good. And Metcalf is such a big body, like Mosley has no chance of defending it. Sometimes you just get beat by better players. That's not a coaching issue. That's not a player's issue. It's just that Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf are that good, and that's what happened yesterday.
Yeah, he's going up against the number 1 offense in the league, the number 1 quarterback in the league. He's missing most of his starters. I liked the blitzes he had early on. The blitzes on second down were creative. They worked, but they just had no one who could cover DK Metcalf at all. Right. And I don't put that on him.
Let's talk about the things we've been critical of him in the past.
Yep.
Design quarterback runs. Did a phenomenal job on it.
He did.
They did an excellent job. One of the more underrated points of the game was they kept Russell Wilson in the pocket and made him play quarterback the whole game. Yep. He did not make off-schedule plays that much yesterday.
Nope.
There's going to be a couple with Russell Wilson every game because he's that good. But they limited the off-schedule plays. They did a phenomenal job doing that, and they made him throw on time and on schedule. The problem is that he was too good throwing on time and on schedule, and DK Metcalf was that good making plays on time and on schedule.
I got something I want to say real quick. I think a lot of the fan base is still very hard on Robert Saleh, partially because of Donte Whitner. Donte Whitner goes on, he does the post-game show with NBC, and he's terrific. I mean, he has a lot to say, and he's very substantive, and he doesn't hold back. And every time the Niners lose, he goes in on Robert Saleh, and it's very specific. He says, he didn't adjust here. He should have called these coverages instead. And I think the Niner fans are informed by his analysis, and I disagree with it. From what I heard him say last night is that he should have called two-man coverage, so two deep, man underneath, and quarters against the Seahawks. That's suicide. You can't play two deep man coverage against Russell Wilson. He'll just run for 20 yards a play. So I respect Donte Whitner's acumen, but he's wrong about that. He played for Vic Fangio. He knows how Vic Fangio typically would call coverages in games, and that's what he's going to. And he thinks, well, Fangio is better than Robert Saleh, but Fangio didn't call two-man against Russell Wilson. It's suicide.
And I know people credited Vance Joseph for shutting down the Seattle offense, but if you go back and look at that game, it's not even that the blitzes were good or anything. They singled DK Metcalf with Patrick Peterson, and I think the bigger problem in that game, and this is, I think, one of my favorite analysts, Chris Sims, he brought it up. He said Russ just didn't throw him the football. If he's one-on-one with Patrick Peterson, you just got to take shots because he's DK Metcalf. And if they took those shots with him being one-on-one, maybe Vance Joseph doesn't look as good that Monday, because yesterday, Robert Saleh started off that game trying similar things to what Arizona did to hurt him, and he had a little bit more. And Russell Wilson said, if you have one guy on DK Metcalf, he's getting the ball. It was a concerted effort to get the ball to DK Metcalf, and he is a super freak. He is just a freak.
Yeah, I don't blame Robert Saleh. I mean, the Seahawks showed DK Metcalf last year. The Cardinals brought in DeAndre Hopkins, and the Niners saw that, and they were like, we're good. We're good. We're not going to bring in any corners. I bet you they do next year. What do you think, Vish? Think they might?
Yeah, I think there is a little complexity to that. It's not exactly fair because CJ Henderson and Jeff Okudah were both picked, and AJ Terrell, who's a good player, who I think has an upside in the NFL, has struggled a little bit in Atlanta to start off.
What about Diggs? I know he's on the worst defense in the league.
Yeah,
and Dallas.
Diggs had a nice game yesterday, but
yeah,
again, how much can you expect? Do you expect Diggs to walk in and be better than Emmanuel Mosley, who's a pretty solid football player? That's the question they probably ask themselves, and I don't know if you can expect that. But
I think the issue is not necessarily talent, but physical matchup. They don't have anyone big enough. I mean, Emmanuel Mosley was actually in good position on DK Metcalf most of the game, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. That's
you see what I'm saying? That's the issue. The matchup.
Has anybody big enough to match up with DK Metcalf? He's a matchup nightmare. Is the glare really bad right now?
It's really bad right now.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck's going on. My blinds are all the way closed.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Maybe
turn
a little bit.
Dude, I don't want people to miss
out. No, you look good. I don't know what's going on. Here, why don't we drop you out and come back in? Here, come back in. Come back in.
Okay.
All right, we'll have a little intermission real quick while we wait for Vish. He's doing great. But what Vish needs is a professional light system like I have, because I look fantastic right now. I look so handsome and crisp. Crisp is the word I would use to describe the way I look right now and how I feel. You got to have the light source in front of you. If it's behind you, that's what's going to happen, man. Vish figured out, though. So when Vish comes back, we're going to talk about I'm going to grill him on Kyle Shanahan because he's giving Kyle Shanahan every. Oh, here he goes. Okay, that's better.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. All right. So we've defended Robert Saleh. He's doing the best he can. He was going up again. He had an impossible task. And remember, Vance Joseph gave up like 600 yards and 34 points to the Seahawks. So no one shuts them down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about Kyle, though, because you're going to have some defense of him and it's legit, but then I'm going to push back a little bit, as you like to say, and let's discuss it.
Yeah, Kyle had I think the first third down was probably the only thing that I really had an issue with. And it's just a call that didn't work. I don't like doing Monday morning quarterback or armchair quarterback, as my buddy Mike McGlinchey likes to say, on offensive play calling, only because I think there is a thought process and a situation that goes in and a detail that goes in to why Kyle Shanahan makes such calls.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that oftentimes when they don't work, it's the easiest thing to sit back and say, well, it didn't work, you should have called something else. I think the bigger reason is you have to go into why it didn't work, and maybe the science and the thinking behind the call, which Kyle owned up to after the game, was the big problem. But I don't think this was a botched coaching kind of thing in general.
No, I'm with you. I'm just not going to let him off entirely. Let me say real quick, and then you can respond to that, because this is how I feel about Kyle. As opposed to Robert Saleh, who's going against the number one offense, he's going against the last ranked defense. And yes, Jimmy Garoppolo was a big time limitation. But as we talk about Chris Kosarick. It's like, we're holding you to the highest standard because you're the best and you get paid like it. Kyle, you're the best. You're not just some up and comer. You're getting paid, I think, $10 million a year. You're supposed to be master level. And the first half was awful. And then look at the third quarter. You go in at halftime, you see what the Seahawks are doing, you make whatever adjustments you make, you come out and you get -4 net yards and 0 first downs. To me, Shanahan's better than that, even with Jimmy Garoppolo. I know they don't have Deebo Samuel. -4 yards. I feel like that was not Shanahan at his best. He was at his best the previous 2 weeks, and maybe he has to be A+ Shanahan to win with Jimmy Garoppolo, but that was like, to me, C Shanahan. C. Not bad, not good. It's kind of,
I think there's something to that. I do think they need Deebo Samuel to run that type of an offense, and not having him really. I do think maybe he could have done a better job in terms of just getting his guys ready to play. There were too many mental errors early in that game because Seattle did not come ready to play. They looked like a team that had just suffered a heartbreaking overtime loss and was tired. And the Niners had an opportunity to go up 4-0. The way I thought Seattle showed up reminded me the way the Niners showed up after their first loss of the season last year to Seattle. And if you remember, they had the Arizona game next week and they fell behind 14-0. And it was a real ugly game, but they pulled the Niners were able to pull the game out. Well, the Niners had the opportunity to start 14-0 against Seattle. They had a great stop first possession. It looked like offense was going to be able to move the ball. And then you had the Kittle kind of drop / miss throw. Ball's got to be more accurate, but George Kittle has also got to catch it. It wasn't exactly a drop, but it's both of it.
It was not a drop. Vish.
No,
Vish.
Ball's got to be more accurate, but hey,
thank you.
George Kittle's also got to make that catch. He's good enough to make that catch. That's my point. He gets paid to make that kind of catch. But
Jimmy gets paid to make that throw.
Absolutely.
That's a terrible throw.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
But there was that. And then there was the bad call on 3rd and 4, the call that just failed on 3rd and 4. And then there was the ugly Jimmy interception. But that game should have started 14-0. They came out, it seemed like they had the right kind of plan. The defense came to play. And instead it's 0-0. You have a turnover, and now Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf start cooking, and that basically ended the game. Also,
there's nothing specifically with Kyle where I'm like, hey, this one call here, you should have done this instead. I'm just like, really? I had higher expectations for you. I think you could have done better, even given all that you were up against. Because, dude, 32nd ranked defense, no Jamal Adams, no Shaquille Griffin. Come on, Kyle. You're better than that. You're better than that. That's all I'm saying.
And, hey, that defense, we talked about it on the phone. And my buddy Blake, who's going to come on in a little bit, we have a phrase that we like to say after Last Dance, the Michael Jordan meme, when he talks about Clyde Drexler. Hey, how he took it personally. Bobby Wagner took it personally yesterday. I think he's been hearing the chirping that Fred Warner is the best linebacker in football. And I think he made a gigantic statement on who is the best linebacker in football yesterday. He dominated that game. I always go back to the Navarro Bowman game, right? The one against the Rams. Aldon Smith has the pathetic DUI. Patrick Willis is out. I think Justin Smith was out. You're going against the Rams. Grant picked you to lose, and Fangio blitzes Navarro Bowman, and he dominates the game, and you win. That was Bobby Wagner yesterday.
Yep. I think Fred Warner, it was not really a Fred Warner game. He didn't have an impact, but he's not Navarro Bowman, who's going to get you like 15 tackles for losses a season. I mean, he's a coverage linebacker. And this is a deep passing team. They kind of just avoided him. You know, he wasn't really a factor. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Jimmy because we're 18 minutes in and you know people want to hear what you think about Jimmy. Are we overreacting? Are we underreacting? Let's just, because we've talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We've done this already.
We
said that we don't really believe in him.
He was playing well.
Right.
We did this when he was playing well. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I just want you to do is describe what you saw from Jimmy. Please just describe it. What you're seeing from him right now.
I'm seeing a broken quarterback mentally. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing he doesn't seem to have confidence in himself. He doesn't seem to have confidence in his body. And if you look at the first or second sack of the game, it felt like just ate the sack. It was on a 3rd and 5 or a 3rd and 4. He felt the guy coming, and I think he went down prematurely. And he went down so prematurely, he nearly escaped the sack because he kind of like crawled out of there, and I think he was surprised to even escape it. And that's when you see him giving himself up in that situation and stuff. You think, I really hope if he has it. And it just comes back to the way he's throwing the football. When he first came to the 49ers, for all of his flaws, I think the reason people really were high on him, because he was reckless when he first came to the 49ers. He made some bad decisions. He had his thing. He was a real nice thrower of the football. He had a great motion, really quick release. He spun the ball, I think, better than any 49er quarterback I've ever seen.
Since like Joe Montana. It looked the prettiest. Yeah, it was the prettiest motion since Joe, for sure.
Yeah, and the ball spins so tight. He spins such a tight spiral. So he might not have the strongest arm, but he could drive that ball into tighter windows. Like there were throws. Like I remember the Texans throw was like a 20-yard kind of mini. It wasn't a post, but it wasn't exactly an into Marquise Goodwin. It was his 3rd read, and he came back and threw that ball flat-footed on a rope to Marquise Goodwin. That kind of throw we have not seen from Jimmy in a very, very long time.
Agree.
And we haven't that kind of throwing even when he came back from the ACL. And now it seems that it's been compounded with the ACL and the ankle, where he's affected mentally, and his throwing is being very affected by what's going on with his body, and that's never a good thing.
Vish, let me tell you what I see, and you tell me if you disagree. What I see, I wrote down my observations. It starts with his feet.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
go ahead.
In the comments, am I lagging out or something? There seems to be
you're lagging a little bit, but the audio's good. I guess your internet at home's a little funky today, but you're fine. You're fine.
Really? Okay, that's interesting.
If you have like a hotspot, you could switch to it. Might be better because hotspot.
Yeah, let me switch to a hotspot then.
All right, go ahead. Then I'll save my spot. I'll save my. Should I tell you my little spiel on?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me just get on.
See, to me, it's his feet. His feet die in the pocket. He's in the shotgun. He'll take a 3-step drop and shuffle and stop, and then he's planted. He's a statue, and he doesn't drive into his throws. Everything is basically chucking with his arm off his back foot without having to put any pressure on his right foot. So maybe it's because he's hurt. Maybe it's because he thinks he's hurt. Maybe it's because he's afraid of getting re-injured. But his feet are terrible. And it doesn't reflect well on Kyle Shanahan, on the quarterback coach Shane Day, or on him. I mean, it looks sloppy. He doesn't stride toward his target. I don't even think Vish is here anymore. Vish, I still got you? Hold on. I'm going to kick Vish out of here. Vish, you're on timeout. But he'll come back. He'll hear me. He's not striding towards his throws. He has no weight transfer. There's no footwork. Like he's playing football. He's playing football without any footwork. And if Bill Walsh were alive, he wouldn't put up with it. Bill Walsh, there you go. That's better.
How is this?
That's better.
All right, cool.
All right, so real quick, bad footwork. Feet die in the pocket.
Right.
Shotgun. He's a statue, and he's not driving his throws. He did when he was first got here. We just said that. I mean, he really drove his throws. Now he does it, and I question: is it the quarterback coach Shane Day? Is it not a point of emphasis? You've brought up Shane Day before because when CJ Beathard was in the game, his footwork was really sloppy. I mean, Mullins doesn't have sloppy footwork, but he's constantly going to like private tutors and stuff, and he focuses on that stuff. Jimmy, I don't know. It's either an injury thing or something else.
But Mullins' footwork isn't perfect by any means either.
No, it's not. He has 11 starts.
No, yeah. With the footwork.
No,
so I don't know what it is. I don't know what the focus is, but I will say this. Before Shane Day got here in 2019 is when he kind of got into this flat-footed shuffle hip type thing where he just shuffles his hip and flicks the ball. And he got away with it in 2019 because he was throwing the ball so much better. So he could pull off some really ridiculous throws all arm, like the Dante Pettis throw for a touchdown. Or he had a throw to Matt Breida rolling out to his left versus the Chiefs before he got hurt. A couple of throws that we won't even see him attempt today, let alone make. Right. But he was making those throws. Now when you compound that footwork with how he's throwing it, the way the ball is spinning out of his hands, it's all just real I don't know what the word is, disconcerting, weird. I've never seen something like this. And I've going back, he's not had injuries to his NFL career. Then he comes to the NFL, and within his first couple starts, he had an injury. And his thing was, I think people asked the question to him when he first got here in 2017, are you injury prone? And his answer was, I've never been injured in my career. Well, now he's been injured twice. And you don't know how people in the NFL will react to when they get injured. And it seems that getting injured has affected Jimmy mentally in the sense that he doesn't know if his body's going to be the same or if he can protect himself or all those things. Because I don't know. Because with the ankle thing, if it's real annoying, it's real worrying, it's real makes you look at side-eyed when Mark Schlereth says, I talked to Kyle and he said Jimmy's ankle is fine and he's good to go. And I talked to Jimmy and he said my ankle was still bothering me. That type of disconnect is really weird.
That's like Alex Smith, Mike Nolan stuff, man.
Right. The fact that the ankle is lingering this much and it's still affecting him is weird. It's all concerning. I don't know what's going on. But what I do know is that I think the best decision, I think we've come to this conclusion before, I think the best decision for Jimmy Garoppolo and the best decision for the 49ers is just to part ways. I think Jimmy needs to go somewhere where he can get healthy and find himself again the way Nick Foles did after the Rams and sat with Andy Reid in Kansas City for 1 year. Maybe New England is that place for him. Who knows? Maybe there's another place because he's still got talent. He's a better player than what he's shown this year. He's a pretty okay player. He's solid, right? He can be an okay quarterback in the NFL. And so I think he needs that opportunity to go do that. And I think the Niners need to find somebody who can best utilize Kyle. And that means you need a star quarterback to make sure that you're making up for, you can prop up what Kyle is doing and really highlight how good he is as a play caller.
Before we move on from Jimmy, let's stick with him a little bit longer. We've described his physical attributes right now, what it looks like. I think what's really interesting about Jimmy is his mentality, his psyche. And you alluded to it with how he's coming back from injuries and how he's handling it. To me, tell me if you disagree, but he's kind of like riding the fence right now. He's telling people, hey, it's still bothering me a little bit, but I'm healthy. It still hurts, but I can play. I'm not on the injury report, but it's bothering me. So it's like, I want you to know that I'm gutting it out. I want you to grade me on another scale. Like I want the Purple Heart of courage for going out on the field and playing below 100%. And to me, it's like, don't do that. Either you're healthy enough to play and go play like you're healthy and get graded on the same grade scale that everyone else is. And if you play poorly, you get benched, or tell Kyle that you're hurt. Like you tell Mark Schlereth that you're hurt and say, Kyle, you got to give me 2 weeks, man. I'm sorry that the season's on the brink. It's not my fault. You got to give me 2 weeks. I'm only hurting the team right now by doing this. That's where I think he's kind of like begging for the Purple Heart of courage right now.
I can't give him that. I don't know what's in his body. I don't know if it's really hurting him or not. I'm not going to comment on whether the injury is valid or not. It's valid.
I'm not saying it's not valid. I'm just saying it seems like he thinks he's hurt.
I know.
He he's hurt.
And if he says it's valid to me. My issue is as you said, playing this kind of wishy-washy line of I'm hurt, but I'm playing. Because to me, if you're hurt, we can't give you the excuse of you're playing bad because you have an injury. The Niners have only 16 games in a season, and they have to be able to prove themselves to get a playoff spot and be contenders for at least 10 of them.
Yep.
Right? So you need to win at least 10 games. And if he's wishy-washy on his health I think he wasn't, I think if it's affecting him, then that means he wasn't right for the Dolphins game, the Rams game, the Patriots game, and now this. That's 4 games where his health has been up in the air when he's your starting quarterback.
And real quick, last year, the whole conversation was, hey, it's his first year off a torn ACL. So he had another excuse last year. Like, he's not driving his throws, but just wait till next year. I mean, it's always the excuse with him.
And last year he talked about it always. Like you asked Kyle said he was good to go in July. Right. Well, Jimmy in December is talking about how, it's still on my mind, but it's getting better. It's just about working with it.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, and the thing is,
throws this thing there, but
the thing with Jimmy is like, you can love the way he throws. You can love his leadership. You can love literally everything about that guy. And I think Bill Belichick did. But if you determine that he's going to be injured a lot and missing games, then kind of everything else is moot.
It's a requirement. I'm sorry. It's a requirement for a starting quarterback to play 16 games. It's just a requirement.
Look at Derek Carr. He could pull it off. And Derek Carr's nothing special. Is he?
Yeah, he's a good player. He's good.
He's good. He's not special. You're not necessarily going to win a Super Bowl with him.
I like Derek Carr's talent. I've been kind of enamored with Derek Carr's talent for a while, so I've kind of stuck by him.
His mobility. I don't like his personality.
Yeah, that's what it's real tough to defend when he's talking about boxing Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Like, you don't want that.
He's got some Mike McGlinchey in him. Derek Carr, he does. Is there anything else we need to talk about with Jimmy? I mean, one more thing. Yes. What is the right move? What's going to happen on Thursday? Should he play that game? Would it be a confidence boost for the team to have him in the huddle, or would it be good for the team to sit him down for a week?
Okay, as a fan, right, I would love to sit here and tell you, I want him to play in this game, because you know what? I think it would go a lot. I don't think anybody's questioning the validity of his injury and stuff, but your season's on the line. It would mean a lot for me as a fan and tell me a lot. And I would appreciate Jimmy, even though next year I'm probably going to be appreciating and enjoying a different guy. But I'd appreciate Jimmy if he came out and battled. And you know what? He just put on his angry face and pulled a Brett Favre and just battled through an entire game. And you know what? That ankle is hurting me, but I'm going to keep fighting and throwing.
Philip Rivers would.
It's hard to do. And it's fine if he doesn't do that. But I'm just saying that it would mean a lot if he would do that. But clearly, if it's on his mind and it's affecting him, you got to go with the guy that's going to give you the best chance to win right now. And in that case, it would be, I guess, Nick Mullins. But I still think, man, it would mean a lot. I think it would mean a lot to the team. This team is in desperate need of something to boost them up, because that loss was ugly.
Yep.
And even though they won 2 in a row, it felt like they took 5 steps back yesterday with the amount of people that got injured and just what was on the field and how defeated it felt. And so with that, and you got a guy in Kwon Alexander who, whatever you think about him, the guy is Mr. Positivity Jitterbug. He's out there always, legendary action. Yeah, we're going to do it and all those things. And I think you do miss that level of positivity in the locker room and stuff. So I think it would mean a lot, and it would be a giant boost if he does play. But if he plays with the mindset of, hey, my ankle is not perfect, I don't know if I could throw, but I'm going to go out and battle, then you don't want him on the field.
One more thing. Finally, I think it's fair to wonder at what point the receivers are going to lose confidence in Jimmy Garoppolo, or if they have already. Because even when they were winning the last 2 weeks, the receivers had to play like running backs. To get the ball, they had to run behind the line of scrimmage. And the thing about those wide receivers, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, that's not all they can do. They get open down the field. They run good routes. They run hard. They're fast. And they spend a lot of effort trying to get open. And they're not even getting looks. And you can see on the coach's film frustration, stamping your feet, clapping your hands, like, what am I working here for? So, right. And even Kittle gets all this money. And now this sort of whispers like, did he really deserve it? Is he really that good? It's like, well, he's not getting the ball down the field. So at a certain point, maybe some of these guys are like, hey, man, well, give someone else a chance. So at least all my effort is not in vain.
Yeah.
For now.
I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think maybe they could be feeling that way and thinking that way, but man, I'd appreciate it because I don't even think like I like Nick Mullins. I think Nick Mullins has already made it in the NFL. Like I
Good
might
call.
be a bit more
Good call.
critical of him than Grant, but you know what? For a guy to come from Southern Miss as an undrafted player and be a guy who's a valid NFL player and one of the 53 players on a roster, it's a great achievement for him.
No doubt.
I think
No
he
doubt.
kind of ceilings out there. I think a lot of 49ers fans think that he might be the next savior. In my opinion,
I don't think anyone thinks he's the next savior. I don't think anyone thinks he's the next savior.
I heard some Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe talk before the Eagles game, so
people get excited. People get excited. But I think honestly, people could say maybe Fitzpatrick. Maybe Fitzpatrick.
He's a valid NFL player and all of that, but he has his own limitations, and he's also not the best option to utilize what Brandon Ayuk, who I'm telling you, Brandon Ayuk is going to be a superstar. This wide receiver class, I thought maybe it was a little overrated. It's not. All of these guys are just insane. They're incredible, whether it's CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, T. Higgins, Ayuk, Chase Claypool, all these guys. I'm missing out a ton of names, but they're all so good. Justin Jefferson, who might be the best of the bunch.
He's good.
Yeah, not to go off on a tangent, but the point is that's where, I mean, it comes back to Grant and I maybe had the conversation a week premature, or maybe we were ahead of the curve when we had the conversation last week of what to do and what we would do at the quarterback position, but it's going to come to that.
What final thing on Jimmy real quick. You could say, we don't know. He's either in his head or he's really hurt. So my question is, maybe he's really hurt. And when he gets to be 100% healthy, he'll be back to playing like 2017, and you don't want to give up on that guy. My question is, what is it going to take for him to get 100% healthy and recovered physically and mentally? Because it seems like he was still thinking about the knee all of last year. That lingered a long time. Now that the ankle is lingering, like, does he need to take a season off? Does he need to take a season and a half off? When he's finally ready and recuperated, will he be 31, 32? I mean, how much patience does an organization need to put into him to revive his career, and is it worth it for the 49ers? Maybe it's worth it for the Patriots.
I don't think it's worth it for the 49ers. I think there's too much that's happened here. His time here has been a whirlwind. I think he himself maybe has lost it. And I don't think for Alex Smith, he reached this point right. But the thing that changed it for him was Jim Harbaugh came, and it was a new culture, a new day in San Francisco for Alex Smith. So he came to a new regime and a totally different culture. That culture is not going to change for Jimmy. Kyle Shanahan is here to stay. John Lynch is here to stay, at least as long as his contract is there. And so you have this setup. I think a lot of these young guys are here to stay. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, a lot of it. And I think at this point, just bringing him back would just be bad taste, both for the organization and for Jimmy, just because there just seems to be a giant disconnect here. Even this ankle thing, it's such a small thing, but having a disconnect over whether a player is really as injured as he says or whether he's not, it's never good to hear these things. I think it would be in the best interest of everybody to just kind of move on. Hopefully, Jimmy, you find yourself and you have a career somewhere. I really thought that you might have been a savior. Sadly, you weren't, but this isn't a post-mortem on Jimmy because there's still a lot of season left to be played. But I think even if they make the playoffs and stuff, to me, just from what I've seen so far, just what they have to do for this offense with him as a quarterback, the way he is currently, I don't think it's the future.
I agree. I have a quick digression. I want to talk about Wes Welker real quick, and then hopefully we'll get your friend Blake on and we can get into the Packers game. But
all right, let me shoot your text.
Okay, real quick. This is what I want to say about Wes Welker. So the Niners offense changed dramatically from 2018 to 2019. In 2018, when they won 4 games, they were a play action shot pass offense. They went downfield a lot. They committed a bunch of turnovers. In 2019, they become a short passing offense, almost a gadget offense. And we attributed a lot to Jimmy. That's what Jimmy does best. I think there might be there's always like multiple variables in football, and it's never just one thing. I think Wes Welker might be part of it. He is a slot receiver. He's a 5'8" slot receiver who specializes in getting open quickly and yards after the catch. And that's what the Niners wide receivers specialize in right now. And one thing I've noticed watching coaches film is when you watch the outside receivers run go routes, for example, they never get the ball, which is like, why are you even running it? But I don't like the way they run their routes. I don't like the way Wes Welker teaches it. What I see is guys getting pushed to the sideline immediately and giving no window for Jimmy Garoppolo to throw the ball. So even if technically Brandon Ayuk has a step on his cornerback, it's a very difficult throw. And it's like, where is the point of it when you watch other teams? Like they won't let their guys get squeezed to the sideline right away. And it seems to me like Wes doesn't know the first thing about running fade routes near the sideline. He never did it in his life. So maybe it's just kind of like, part of the part of doing business with Wes Welker. You're going to get guys who are great after the catch, but he doesn't really know how to teach that part of the game.
So we have no clue with this, right? It's
just a theory.
It's a fair theory. I think it has its moments and it doesn't. But honestly, I think you need to get a quarterback who throws a very viable deep ball down the field first before you can make sure that this is correct, because we don't even know how much they practice go routes and stuff if the ball is literally never thrown outside the numbers 20 plus yards down the field on go routes. So we're not sure yet.
All I know is if I wanted someone to teach that route, it wouldn't be Wes Welker. But they did have Miles Austin, and maybe he couldn't do it. All right, Blake, your friend Blake is waiting in the studio. Let's let him in, and you introduce him.
Yeah, so this is my buddy Blake. I've known him for a very long time. We're good friends. We talk about football all the time. He's a huge Packers fan, so I had a very enjoyable season last year talking football with him. He recently he used to watch all of these and he used to be in the comment section talking about Christian Kirksey and other relevant Packers players. And he recently reached out to Grant, and Grant wanted to bring him on to talk about the Packers game that hopefully still happens, given that AJ Dillon now is in COVID protocol. So he knows a lot about football. I love talking about football with him, and here he is.
So you guys are thinking about starting a podcast, which is cool. So watch that, look out for that. But for today, Blake we'll call him the Packers correspondent. So we're going to get into the matchup, but I think it'd be fun to start off by ranking quarterbacks in the NFL, sort of like a big picture NFL and concept. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo's stock is way down. Aaron Rodgers' stock is up. You guys take it away. Where would you rank? Just rank the quarterbacks in the NFL. Tier them up.
I was doing this as an exercise, right? I sent it to both of you guys, actually. I had a little bit of free time. There was one late night. I had nothing to do. Yeah, it's kind of sad that that's what I did in my free time, but hey, coronavirus does that to you. I was just sitting on my bed and I was thinking about it because, like, there's so many good quarterbacks in the NFL. And you start listing the names, and guys that you think are like top 10 quarterbacks for sure actually end up like 13, 14 just because of how many good quarterbacks there are. So I thought it was crazy. I think ranking them by numbers definitively is hard. I think the best way to do it is tiers. And so I did put numbers on my quarterbacks when I sent it to you guys. I think tiers is the way to go. So, Blake, why don't you start off by telling me who do you think are the tier 1 quarterbacks in football right now?
So my tier 1, starting with the first, I would say Russell Wilson. I think both you guys would have that too. I mean, just not only this year, but like last year too, you saw him just drag that just horribly injured Seahawks team. And this year again, I mean, he's on pace for, I think, like 60 touchdowns or something, which is just ridiculous.
That's it?
Yeah.
Come on.
Number 2, I would say Mahomes. 3 would be Rodgers, especially, this year he's been I still think he's been as good as he has in the last few years as this year, but maybe the team around him wasn't as good. And then 4th,
I never really liked his weapons. Yeah, keep going. I like Adams,
4th, I would go with Brady, probably 4th. And then Lamar 5, I think. I don't know if I'm forgetting, but that'd be my first tier.
When I did it, I think I had 4 guys in my first tier, and I went Russ, Mahomes. I always got to put Tom Brady in there. I'm sorry. Tom Brady's got to look like an absolute bum before I admit he's not a tier 1 quarterback. That's just my thing. Maybe I'm biased, but I've never seen anything like him. I still think he's so good. And I had obviously, so it was, what did I say? I said Rodgers, Russ, Mahomes, and Brady. I didn't have Lamar there. And I think yesterday worked in my favor a little bit, but I think Lamar is still a stud. And then tier 2, when I was
Hold on.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Talk tier 2. I would put Ben Roethlisberger in tier 1. I would still say Ben Roethlisberger tier 1. But I mean, 7-0. His quarterback rating is 99. He missed a year. He ain't dead yet. I like Ben Roethlisberger.
Hey, you know there's not a bigger fan of Ben Roethlisberger than this guy.
Kyle apparently.
Yeah, my hot take. Ben Roethlisberger is a better all-time great quarterback than Drew Brees. I really believe it. It's my hot take.
Drew Brees got to play. He got to play in a dome. He got to play with Sean Payton. All right, tier 2.
Tier 2.
It's a big tier.
So I when I listed my tier 2, I actually came out with like 9 names. And that's ridiculous to me, but I think they're all deserving. I had in no particular, like I guess in somewhat of an order, but I had Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford, Lamar Jackson, Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, Big Ben Roethlisberger, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. And it might be a little premature to put 8 games and Drew Brees. Apologies. I'd moved Drew Brees to tier 2, but it might be a little premature to put Herbert and Burrow in the tier 2 of quarterbacks. So
I got another name for tier 2, but
and so early. Oh, okay. I'm interested.
I got another name for tier 2.
Okay.
Blake, is there anyone that Vish is leaving out? Blake, first, you. I'm
trying to think. I on the Herbert and Burrow part, I would definitely throw them in there as of now from what we've seen. I mean, Burrow, he's getting killed behind that O-line, and I don't know if Zach Taylor's the best play caller. They do have some pretty decent weapons, but I think he's been a stud so far. And same with Herbert, too. Herbert has been killing it. I mean, Anthony Lynn, again, the head coach has been kind of letting them down. They've blown leads due to their defense. But, he's been slinging it to – I mean, there's touchdowns that are like 50 yards, and it's to like some no-name guy. Like, I feel like that happens every week. But
yeah, his deep ball is a layup. His deep ball is a layup.
I got an answer. You guys aren't going to like the name, and you're going to disagree with me, but I don't care.
All right,
Phillip Rivers is a tier 2 quarterback still. He's 5-2. He is completing 69.7% of his passes. He's averaging 8.1 yards per attempt. His quarterback rating is 97. He's still one of the more consistent quarterbacks in the league, although his consistency is not you know what you're getting from Phillip Rivers, but I think he's still Phillip Rivers. I think he's still Phillip Rivers. If he was tier 2 3 years ago, he's tier 2 now.
You think he benefits a lot from that O-line? Because
absolutely.
I don't know. When I see him play, like,
if you don't have an O-line.
If he doesn't have that close O-line, he's kind of just a statue sitting back there. Like,
Frank Reich is a hell of a play caller. He is really good.
But he still is one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the league. He still is. He still is.
Probably.
That's an elite trait.
It is. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you could have him in there.
And he doesn't get hurt
next year.
He's old as hell, and he doesn't get hurt. He's never missed a game ever. Yeah,
he's unreal. He's
ever
He's competitive. I don't know. There's just something with Phillip Rivers that I just question if you can actually ever win long term with Rivers. And it's really a tough generalization to make about him because he was stuck with the Chargers, which who wins with the Chargers?
Win it this year? No, he's not going to win this year. No. But they're 5-2.
Yeah. Their defense has been like a top 5 defense too. Don't forget that.
Right.
I mean, they just hand the ball off and then just let their defense do their thing. But also, the thing with Phillip is he turns it over in just like the worst moments. I feel like
he does.
Like, kind of like Kirk Cousins-esque, where just like prime time, big stage, biggest moment. Like, I don't know, he just turns it over.
I mean, how many games ended last year with, oh, the Chargers are coming back, they're driving down the field. Oh, Phillip Rivers threw another interception.
Yeah. Too many.
Here's the difference. Like, Phillip Rivers has no problem throwing the pick when he's down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Aaron Rodgers, he'll be down 2 touchdowns. That's the way I look at him. He'll be like, my quarterback rating is 109 right now. I don't really have to force the issue right now. Like, if we lose, no one's going to say I played bad. But that's, again, me watching like 8 of his games when I covered him. I always like picked the Packers to win. So like by the fourth quarter, I'm like, all right, Aaron, make me look good. And I never felt like he was going to go for broke the way that Favre did or the way that Rivers did. And if they throw a pick that's like, well, whatever, man, I was trying. Sorry. What do you want from me? You know,
I think the other thing with Rivers is that a lot of his picks, it's like his arm is it's not.
It's whack. It's terrible.
And
it's
so
terrible.
he throws the football with so much anticipation. Sometimes he throws that ball so early that by the time that ball gets to where he's getting it to, everything that he saw when he threw it has totally changed, and it's just a pick.
Okay, hold on. I don't want to lose the whole audience while we talk about Phillip Rivers because I know Niner fans do not.
Yeah, no.
Let's get to tier 3 and talk about Jimmy, and then we'll get into the matchup coming up.
Yeah, so tier 3 to me is like all similar guys. I think they're all the same kind of quarterback. I think a couple of them are more physically gifted, but I think tier 3 and tier 4 are kind of the same level, except tier 4 is all the young, unproven guys. A couple of them maybe are just duds, proven that way, and a couple of them we don't know enough yet. But tier 3 to me is the Derek Carrs. I still have Cam Newton there. I don't know where he is now. I really don't know. Kirk Cousins. I had Phillip Rivers. I had Jimmy. I had Teddy Bridgewater, and I had Jared Goff. I thought they were all kind of the same kind of player to me. I mean, Goff was just pathetic versus the Dolphins yesterday, but he also throws a nice ball when he's protected. Jimmy's had his moments when he's nice. Derek Carr,
when he's healthy, he's tier 3. Jimmy is tier 3 when he's healthy. Yes.
Derek Carr is really, really talented physically. He's got a really good arm and he's really mobile, but he's got his own set of issues upstairs and with John Gruden. And I don't know about all those things, but yeah. And I like Kirk Cousins actually. I hate Kirk Cousins' personality. I don't want him to be the quarterback of my team, but I think he's a good player. I think he's often just kind of a media target when he's not as bad as I guess people make it out to be until this season.
Kirk Cousins is the 9th highest rated quarterback of all time. A stat that makes you throw up in your mouth. Thank you, Kirk. All right. Should we get into this game? Aaron Rodgers is the 2nd highest rated quarterback of all time. You know who number 1 is?
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson. These are qualifying players. I don't know how many games.
Did he pass him this year? Because Rodgers had the lead by a lot. Like
after his whole career, I feel like.
I don't know. How many seasons do you have to play before you qualify for the stat? I don't know. Like you have to do like 50 starts or I don't know what it is. But now it's Russell Wilson.
You know who would be up there if he qualifies?
Who?
If you just take stats
Jimmy?
right now. Yeah.
Jimmy? Yeah. That's true. Although, you know who's the highest rated quarterback on the Niners this season? Big Nick Mullins. All right. This game coming up. Let's start with our Packers correspondent. What do you expect in this game, Blake? And how do you see it from Green Bay's perspective?
All right. So when I look at it from Green Bay's perspective, and I'm going to use some hindsight and look at 2019. So in both those games, the Niners pass rush was just like absolutely – it was killer for the Packers offense. Mainly like – I don't know. For me, Rodgers holds on to the ball a while and likes to get through his progressions. But if you're getting pressure with 4 dudes like the Niners do, then it's kind of a problem, especially if Bulaga's out and Alex Light's in there. I know we talked about this earlier, but like the first game, they would just throw Bosa on Alex Light and he would just kill him every time in like half a second. Or there'd be the times where, like Buckner or someone else would get through. And that happened in the final game too, where Rodgers was just pressured so much. So looking at this year, when I look at the D lines and the front 7 comparatively for the Niners, it's not as strong as it was. It's as scary as it could be, mainly because of Bosa. And then, Buckner's gone too. Kinlaw's good, but I don't think he's what Buckner is as a pass rusher. Like their leading
That's safe to say.
Yeah. The person who has the most sacks is that Kerry Ryder, right?
Jr.
Yeah.
Kerry Ryder.
Yeah.
You've never heard of him.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't think their pass rush is going to be as good. And they still have injuries throughout the secondary. Is Sherman going to play or no? Is he back yet?
No.
Yeah. So
people are going to play.
I think the Packers offense will do better. Defense wise, Mike Pettin. Oh my gosh. I mean, did you guys see what Dalvin Cook's stat line was? 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards. I mean,
from had him
here, it's like the defense somehow regressed. I mean, they didn't draft anyone. They retained like all the same players, but Mike Pettin's base defense, he runs nickel. So he's got 2 linebackers, 5 like defensive backs, and they use Raven Green, who's a safety, and they put him in at like the linebacker role. So he's like the inside linebacker. And then they have 4 D linemen, and this is great when you're playing a team that's passing all the time, right? Because you have that extra D-back. When you're playing a team that's running the ball constantly, yeah, you're going to get killed when they get to the second level and you have a strong safety getting blocked by a fullback or a lineman. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to run well as per usual. I mean, Mostert went crazy last year. The linebackers, they have a couple rookies, Kamal Martin and then Barnes, who are late round picks, but they've had some good flashes. So I hope they can do well. But what I want to see out of Pettine in the defense is I want to see them adjust, and I just want them to say, all right, Jimmy, just please beat us. Like, we're not going to let you run on us. That is, like, even if they, let Jimmy go off, like, just don't get beat by the same thing over and over and over, because that's how they lose. They just get ran all over. In the Tampa Bay game, too, like, Ronald Jones was averaging, like, 5 or 6 yards a carry. They would just send him up the middle, and you just get to the second level easily. So I really hope they can adjust and not, like, just let the Niners run all over them. But I don't know. Mike Pettine doesn't always adjust, and we'll see.
Boy, that was a pretty defeated analysis right there. Vish, what do you see in this matchup?
Okay, so I was talking to my buddy, like, Blake, like, maybe 2-3 days ago before that Seattle game, and I was like, there's absolutely no way that the Niners are going to lose to the Packers. And it was real simple to me. The Packers don't have big people. And if you don't have big people inside, you can put 10 people in the box and the Niners are still going to run the football. That's what happened in New England. You need size inside. Like Seattle, for all their shortcomings, they play that Seattle scheme, which is an 8-man front, right? So it's a really sound front to begin with. And Jaron Reed and Poona Ford are huge.
They're really good.
Big people. They're hard to move. Kansas City had success against this run game because they had a lot of size inside. You need size, and the Packers just don't have any size. Not to mention, you also would like to have 2 linebackers like Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright who can fly around and hit, and the Packers don't have that either. So I thought there was no chance for Green Bay. But now the way I see it is that they still got a shot. Because if you're telling me that the run game is going to be Jerick McKinnon and JaMychal Hasty, no Deebo Samuel, no George Kittle, then I think Kyle Shanahan might be able to put up the offensive performance he put up with CJ Beathard and Marquise Goodwin in Lambeau that one Monday night. But I'm not sure how this defense will do. Like, Rodgers still has 0 weapons. I still think that if you can hit Aaron Rodgers and hit him early, I think he's okay with letting the game go and getting back to next week. And it's because he's a guy who wants to play till he's 40, 41, 42, and he's had injuries, unlike the other superstar quarterbacks that are doing it. So I think that he does his career flash before him a little bit, where he's willing to protect himself because he knows that his health is the best long-term interest for him and the Packers.
And he won't get blamed. I don't know how the local media is in Green Bay, but I'm guessing they're probably pretty partial to Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
So that I think all those things are there, but I don't know if the Niners will just be ready to play. Like, this matchup is just sitting there. It's served up on a platter. The Packers haven't improved in any sort of way. And yeah, Jair Alexander is a superstar corner, but guess what? Kyle Shanahan will just avoid Jair Alexander and find 15 different ways to throw the football and pick up 10 yards.
It's exactly what Zimmer just – he didn't even – I mean, Kirk Cousins threw, 14 times?
Right.
You can't just, like – I mean, you remember last year's game against the Niners in the NFC Championship. Jimmy Garoppolo threw, 8 or 9 passes?
Great, yeah.
How do you let that happen? Just, put, I don't know what you do. Put, 8 people.
4 shovel passes and just say that he did.
Yeah. They threw those screens and just, short routes like that, too.
Wish and I feel that was the end of Jimmy in San Francisco, that he's never really recovered from that. That was it.
He didn't recover from the post-game reaction to that.
Yeah, it's just
Terry Bradshaw, man, dude. That's
humiliating. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's humiliating.
That loss yesterday was embarrassing. That throwing 8 passes in the NFC Championship game was humiliating. It's humiliating.
Yeah, but
because it shows what your own coach thinks of you. You know what I mean? It was a decision by Kyle Shanahan. It's in his face. You know.
Do you think it was more of a knock against Jimmy and saying, "Hey, we don't really want to put the ball in your hands," or is it more of saying, "Hey, We
Both.
can just sit back and hand the ball to Mostert, and he's getting 7 yards every time. Sometimes
Vish, take this.
It is the latter, right? It is the latter. That game was on the platter to win the game with Mostert. There's no doubt about it. But I just think with him being your franchise quarterback, with there already being questions about him, you can't let him throw eight times in that game and take that 2-week beating before the Super Bowl of does Kyle Shanahan trust Jimmy Garoppolo? Is Jimmy Garoppolo really that guy? 200 different quarterbacks could have given Raheem Mostert the ball and thrown 8 passes and won that game. You couldn't have let that narrative stand. If he's your franchise guy, you get him to 15 to 17 throws, and then the whole thing is moot. Like
that's what Tennessee does.
The ball 17 times because the run game was working. That's it. But
so real quick. Oh, go ahead. Oh, my bad. Keep going.
When you get them to Bob Greasy, like 70s, 60s quarterbacks of throwing numbers and passing attempts, that's when you drive unnecessary narratives and put a lot mentally on a guy who probably didn't need to take it before the biggest game of his career.
Yep. Okay, real quick, let me do my little breakdown of this game. Let me throw some stats at you. Okay, so I see that the Packers are giving up 4.7 yards per carry. That's a start. If you can't stop the run against the Niners, it's tough. What's that?
I'm surprised it's not more.
Okay, so they can't stop the run. Then the average opponent quarterback rating they're giving up right now is 110. So, I mean, things seem like they should be available for the 49ers on offense. The other thing, though, is I can't help but remember how well Aaron Rodgers played against the Niners before they got Nick Bosa. I mean,
yeah,
he really beat him in Lambeau that time. He was down in the fourth quarter. There was nothing the Niners could do. And I'm wondering if that's going to happen again, because, again, how much of an impact can Fred Warner have in this game? He's not covering Devontae Adams. There's no pass rush. If Aaron Rodgers has time and he's not checked out and he's not afraid the way he was last year, he's the best quarterback of all time. He'll kill you. So the Niners definitely can win, but am I picking them to win? I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know.
And I guess another point kind of with that, like if Aaron Jones is coming back, the Packers have I think Williams is a really good backup and he can even fill in as a starter sometimes, but Aaron Jones is dynamic. And if they can get like Fred Warner blocked on the second level, he's very explosive. Aaron Jones is really explosive. And hopefully they figured out how to do that. You're
forgetting that the Niners have the best safety in the league, Jimmy Ward. So it doesn't matter if you blocked Fred Warner, because Jimmy Ward is going to come up and make the play and save the day. Sorry.
Two things. One, I don't think the Packers' run game is going to work at all. It's the same run game as the 49ers. And guess what the Niners have up front? Whatever you think of Kinlaw, whatever you think of Jones, whatever you think of Gibbons, whatever you think of Kerry Hyder, whatever you think of Armstead, this is probably the biggest defensive line in football. The four guys that start are all above 290 pounds. They're tough to move, and they're going to play this run game really well because they know this run game. And then you have speed and hitting with Warner and Greenlaw at the second level. That run game is not going to work for the Packers. I don't think it's going to work. Number two, Grant, for some reason, I don't know, I'm
a bully. I'm a bully, man.
Against Jimmy Ward for no reason yesterday.
No reason.
You have me thinking after reading that Tarvarius Moore was Ed Reed and he would have come onto that field and shut down DK Metcalf. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, real quick, Jimmy Ward. And Blake, you may not know much about Jimmy Ward. This guy's been on the Niners. He's their longest tenured player, honestly. Okay, so he plays free safety. Originally, he was a nickel. He played some corner. He's a good athlete. He's been searching for a position. And what Robert Saleh calls the free safety in this scheme, his nickname for it is the eraser. And it's because you're supposed to erase other people's mistakes. You're the last line of defense. A guy gets beat. There you are. To not just make the tackle, but to make the play and help someone out. And Blake, he's never, ever, ever made an eraser type play. Now he's solid. He'll be in the right position. He'll be a little late, but he'll make the tackle. But that's not what they're paying him to be the solid guy who makes a tackle 15 yards downfield because he didn't quite get there soon enough. He doesn't have the speed to get to the sideline from center field. Now, not a lot of people do. Tavarius Moore does. Jimmy Ward doesn't. To me, I would rather see Jimmy Ward play really any position besides free safety.
Like
strong safety, nickel. Put him at strong safety. Let him play closer to the line of scrimmage. Now he's going to break down, but he breaks down at free safety anyway. Or let him play nickel. To me, the free safety needs to be making more plays. And you can always say, well, there's an excuse. There's a reason. Jimmy did his job. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was in coverage. He's just not a playmaker at free safety. Put him as strong safety. Give him something else because I just don't like him at that position. And on third down, they don't play him there anyway.
Okay, here's my argument to this real quick, but Blake, before you get to respond. I think that's because, first of all, let's look at the free safeties that run the Seattle scheme. Which one of these free safeties make a lot of plays? The only guy you can mention is the guy that's going to the Hall of Fame, and that's Earl Thomas.
Yes.
The rest of these guys who maybe aren't as good players as Jimmy Ward, but pretty good players, they don't really make plays. They just do their job, and Jimmy Ward does his job, and he does it at a pretty high level. I think we're forgetting in the Rams game how far Jimmy Ward was coming down and cracking Darrell Henderson and cracking Malcolm Brown in the run game, and how good of a job he does covering tight ends. I thought he did. He had Greg Olsen one-on-one a lot yesterday, and
they never test him. They never test him too. If he's yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true.
The problem with him is that he struggles to play the ball when his back is to the ball.
True.
But he's so sticky in coverage, it's rare that you make that contested throw because the guy always looks covered. So I think that the hate on Jimmy Ward is a little premature. I think Moore is a good player, and Moore definitely should be on the field more, but it shouldn't be at the expense of Ward.
Blake, you know that safety who's like always just about to make the play. He's like a couple steps away, and you can always say, hey, man, he's a good player, but he just, for whatever reason, isn't making those plays. And to me, I'm not paying $10 million a year for that guy.
I was going to say, I sometimes think that about Darnell Savage. Like, there's plays where, I don't know, he comes downhill really hard, and he's going to make a tackle, but, like, especially against Delvin Cook, the amount of times, like, he just went for a tackle and, like, whiffed, like, yeah, it's frustrating, but, yeah.
And, again, Darnell Savage, he's versatile. He can play a little corner. He can play a little nickel, but is he a playmaker?
Yeah, I don't know
he
yet.
struggled versus the Niners in the NFC Championship game. He took some horrible angles.
Like, would you rather have – here's a question. Would you rather have a safety who's not, quote-unquote, a playmaker, but he's versatile and good at all the different things he does, or a guy who's, quote-unquote, just a safety who's a playmaker?
I feel like it depends on what you have around them. Like, the versatile part, like, I feel like, you know, Packer player here, but Adrian Amos is, like, he can play free safety, strong safety, and he's not, like, amazing. I wouldn't say he's, like, super good at any one, but he can do a lot of different things, and he's also like a pretty sure tackler and hard hitter. So like I personally like that, having that type of person on my team. But you know, is for Saleh's scheme, if you're disguising a lot of coverages, I feel like that type of a player would be nice. But if you're gonna have someone just sit back in that free safety role, I feel like you'd rather them just be like an absolute ball hawk at like that position. So it depends on your team around them.
That's how I feel.
Okay.
I mean, I would rather have a safety like Deshaun Goldson, who can't cover in the slot, is not versatile, than a safety like Jimmy Ward, who can do all these different things, but is just not going to come away with picks and forced fumbles and stuff like that.
All right, here's a question.
Yeah.
Who's the highest paid safety in football? It's Budda Baker. When did Budda Baker have his first career interception?
Well, hold on. Just because the Arizona Cardinals made Budda Baker the highest paid safety in the league doesn't mean the Arizona Cardinals made the right decision.
I think they did. Budda Baker, every time I watch Arizona, it's been this way for the last 2 years.
He's a good tackler.
Number 32 flies.
Hold on, but he does force fumbles. I mean, he's not Jimmy Ward. He's better than Jimmy Ward. He's
also paid $5 to $6 million more than Jimmy Ward. I'm just saying. But
he has 5 forced fumbles in 4 years. He has 4 fumble recoveries in 4 years. He did take 3 years to get a pick, but I mean, you can't say he is a playmaker. Budda Baker is a playmaker.
Okay, agreed. But I'm just saying. Even Budda Baker, who's a stud, in my opinion, should be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. It still took him 3 years to get interceptions. I don't think like some people have a knack to get interceptions, and they go to the Hall of Fame because their name is Ed Reed or their name is Minkah Fitzpatrick, and they're showing traits to be an all-pro safety for years to come. And then you have a lot of really good safeties, and I don't think you can find a lot of really good safeties like Jimmy Ward just around anywhere. I think there's a value to him, and I think that putting the Twitter mob on him, I think there's games that you will eventually find his value. And I'll be sitting here. You can give me a call. You can apologize to me and say, Vish, Jimmy Ward is a pretty damn good player.
I'm not going to apologize to you, but I might apologize to Jimmy Ward one day. Well, fair enough. I ain't never apologizing to you, Vish, but I love you. You're my guy.
Would you guys rather have Ward, or would you rather take someone in like the second or third round that you think could fill a spot for much cheaper?
They already took a guy in the third round. His name's Tavarius Moore. I prefer him. You've never seen him play because he just kind of hangs. Yeah, he does some special teams. Yeah, I'm with you, Blake. They already have that guy. He's in his third year. Yeah. Tavarius Moore. Let him freaking play. He's got 4.3 speed. He throws his body around with no regard for it. I like him. I don't care that he can't cover the slot. Don't care at all.
This goes back to the conversation we had at the end of the Periscope. It was like the last minute last time, I think, where we talked about the future safety combination, because Tart, as much as good a player as Tart is and all those things, there's a chance he's gone. And I think Marcel Harris is like a very good backup. I think he's a stud special teamer. But I think they've got, even yesterday, I thought that they had to play Moore and Ward together. Moore and Ward is just better than Harris. And it's not that.
And I actually kind of like Harris, but yeah.
They're just better.
Agree. All right.
Let's take some questions.
We can take some questions. Will Lynch step in and shuffle the money? Jimmy G to Boston. Wish we could swap Armstead for Buckner, Sherman, Tartan, Ward for draft capital. I would definitely trade Sherman if you could, but you can't, right? He's on IR. Can't trade a guy on IR. And then Tart. Yeah, trade Tart to Baltimore right now for third. I would do it. Ward, what do you think you could get for Ward right now? Since he's so good and he's such a playmaker. A second?
Dude, I know for a fact that, Jimmy Ward was voted the 10th best safety in the NFL, right? When ESPN did their coaches poll, right? Was he not?
Wow.
Someone confirmed this for me. He was voted the 10th best safety in the NFL.
Wow.
Fred Warner was voted the 10th best linebacker in the NFL. So coaches love Jimmy. This was at the end of last year. Was the thing
traded for 2 firsts.
Jeremy Fowler did. So I think Ward is beloved around the league. You have to understand something. Jimmy Ward is a guy with an injury history that survived 4 different coaching staffs. And every single coaching staff has walked into that door and said, Jimmy Ward is one of our best players and we love Jimmy Ward. So that tells you that there is a value to Jimmy Ward that maybe we're not sophisticated enough or nuanced enough, or maybe we just don't appreciate that specific value, but the coaches do. But there is value to Jimmy Ward, and Kyle Shanahan's already said that he would wear a Jimmy Ward jersey if he could. So there's no way Jimmy Ward is getting traded, but I think you could get a third-round pick for Jimmy Ward.
He's paid Chris. Hey, man, if Chip Kelly said it, it must be true.
Chip Kelly had one of the greatest clock management moments in the history of the 49ers when they all committed that holding call or the illegal contact penalty.
Do you think the Niners can beat the Packers with Mullins? Blake, what do you think?
I personally think if there's a backup in there, I hope Patton would adjust his scheme to just like kind of what I was saying, just
overwhelm the line.
Backup quarterback beat me. And one of the issues the Packers have had this year is getting pressure and turnovers. I feel like they'd be more aggressive knowing there's a backup quarterback in there and just like, throwing more blitzes. Because right now, like Preston Smith, he's not performing well at all. Za'Darius has been good, not as good as last year. And they're not really getting many sacks. They're not forcing turnovers, which is, I think, one of the reasons we lost yesterday. Like they're not they're not putting pressure on the quarterback. They're just sitting back there and just picking us apart when they do pass.
That bodes well for Nick Mullins, I gotta say. Vish, if there's no pass rush, he'll carve you up. That's what he did against the Giants. If there is a pass rush, then you see all of his physical limitations you saw it against the Eagles.
Well, I think one thing with that is one of the reasons there hasn't been a pass rush is because teams have just been running all over us. Like there's not pass situations. In games when we've gotten up, like and there's more obvious passing downs, I feel like we've been able to like create more pressure. But like if there's a balanced attack and it's like a close game and like we don't know what you're gonna run, that's when it's tougher to get pressure.
Absolutely.
So do I think the Niners can beat the Packers with Mullins? Absolutely. They beat the Packers last year with the quarterback throwing 8 times. So I think the game plan for the Packers ideally would render the quarterback rather moot, where he's not doing too much. He just makes a couple of throws here and there, and you just run the football all over them, completely eliminate their run game, and hopefully you double Devontae Adams and say, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, beat us. Well, given how the Niners played against the Seahawks on Sunday, and I know the Packers had a rough game, but the Packers have Aaron Rodgers and all of that, and this wasn't their second this was their second loss of the season, but the Niners, it feels like the Philly loss was of this where it felt like everything just fell apart. Miami, it felt like everything fell apart, and now Seattle, it feels like everything fell apart once again. It's really tough to right now. Maybe I would feel a lot better a couple days from now, but right now, given what happened yesterday, still fresh in my mind, just say that, yeah, I think the Niners are going to beat the Packers. But yes, there's definitely, they can. They're a better team, and they have so many advantages in so many ideal spots.
Yeah, Nick Mullins is a more confident downfield thrower right now than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's more willing to pull the trigger on those passes right now than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not more mobile than Jimmy Garoppolo. He doesn't have a stronger arm than Jimmy Garoppolo. And if you get pressure in Nick Mullins' face, we saw what happened against Philly. But if they can't, as Blake said, if they're struggling with getting a pass rush, if they're not bringing pressure, Nick Mullins can operate this offense very well. He's been in it for 4 years. He knows who his playmakers are. He'll carve you up. I mean, he can throw for 400 yards very quickly. He accumulates numbers. So, yeah, he can beat him even without Kittle, even without Debo. I'm not saying he will. But, yeah, we've seen Nick Mullins kind of just become this. I mean, he threw for 228 yards in a quarter. Not many guys do that. It was against prevent defense. The game was out of hand. Still, the guy is not a straight up stiff. And, yeah. I'm curious. I think it's going to be a really close game, and I really don't know who's going to win. I don't know.
There was one question. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, don't you think having Mullins kind of air it out more would play into the Packers' favor? Because I feel like having them just run the ball all the time I would rather them pass it with Mullins than just run it. I don't even care what running back's back there. Like, I feel like Shanahan's just going to do some zone run, and he'll do a trick play and scheme up something where someone has a huge gaping hole. And whether that's Hasty, McKinnon, or Mostert, or, Mostert's injured, but I just don't think it matters who they throw in there.
Because they're going to win with their running game. No, all I'm saying is they're going to feature their running game. They're still going to have the gadget plays and the screens, but instead of that being everything that they have, they can also throw a couple passes downfield too, just to keep the Packers on their toes. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he is right. Ideally, you don't want the quarterback throwing that much at all because they do have a pretty good secondary, and it's because Jair Alexander is a superstar. Blake, I think you're very high on Jair Alexander.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a superstar. So, maybe he takes Brandon Ayuk in man coverage in this game and just locks him out of the game. But the Niners still have Juszczyk. They still have Dwelly. They have Bourne. There's enough where I think they should have no problems. Real quick, Grant, there was a question from Samuel Weber. Saying, is Kwon Alexander as bad as everyone says he is? I think.
Okay, this is for Samuel Weber. I can't find it, but go ahead and answer it.
Sure. So the thing with Kwon Alexander is that he's in kind of a tough spot where the value of the player doesn't meet up to what the player is being paid. And I think that's what leads to kind of a lot of criticism of Kwon Alexander because the Niners pay him like he's one of the best weak side / middle / off ball linebackers in football. And he's not. He's really not. I don't even think he's top 10, but he is a really solid player. There's some things he does well. He does have a few weaknesses that are that get very much shown by a few highlight plays. My buddy Mike McGlinchey knows about these. And they kind of get shown up, but he does do some things well. He's a good player, and I think that if he had a more manageable contract, his play would be fine for who he is.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Kwon Alexander. If he were on a rookie deal and he was playing like that, you'd be like, oh yeah, I like that. I like that guy. He's not perfect, but I like him. After the ACL injury, the pec injury, and all the money he's making, it's like, oof. Yeah, we'll just go with Azeez Al-Shaair at this point. Thanks.
Right.
Yeah. And also, you'd have to think that Tampa feels pretty good about their decision to let him go and bring in other people. I mean,
Devin White stud.
They were right. Yeah. I think we can take one more question, and then you got to go to class, Vish.
Yeah, I do.
Your parents would be very disappointed in me if I kept you. Just kidding.
There were a couple good ones. There were a couple good ones. I think we just missed them. Do you think we should have traded Armstead and kept Buckner?
What about option C? Let them both go.
So ideally, I think given the way COVID has happened, that's the option I would have picked. Just because I think I've talked about it before. I talked about it after the Miami game, and I don't want to beat the dead horse, but I think the entire mindset of the organization coming into this season was wrong. They tried to rebuild something that didn't work. It didn't work at the end. We can give all the reasons why it should have worked, but it didn't work. That's the bottom line. And this is a results-based business, and the Niners didn't win the Super Bowl. And they tried to come and run it back with the worst version of what they had.
But the Chiefs held Nick Bosa. On 3rd and 15. They really cheated. The Niners should have won. Nope, you lied to yourself. They lied to themselves all offseason, Vish.
Right. And so in that case, I think Armstead is a very good player, and I think he's getting too much flack right now from fans. I think he's hurt a lot by the fact that they have nobody on the outside, and he's not always rushing inside. A lot of the times they have Kinlaw and Givens or Jones and Kinlaw and a lot of different guys rushing inside and have Armstead rushing on the outside, which is not his natural position. I think he's still a very good player in the run game. Just the thing is that, one, I don't think Buckner is worth being the second highest paid defensive player or defensive tackle in football. I think I'm of the mindset that you don't pay defensive players $20 million, and it's because they don't touch the football. So they can't always impact the game the way their contract says they should. Like Khalil Mack is one of the best players in football, but there's just times that the Bears, he's just not there in certain games. And like, it's tough to criticize him because he's Khalil freaking Mack, but if you're paid $23 million, you need the guy to be the best player on the field in every game the way you expect your quarterback to. So when that's the case, I think Aaron Donald's the only defensive player I'd pay $20 million. So I was totally okay with letting Buckner go. But I think also letting Armstead go and just trying to retool your team in a different way, I think that would have been probably the direction I would have preferred to go. Armstead's still a good player, but who knows if he'll ever live up to $17.5 million.
Also, how good have the Rams been since they cashed out Aaron Donald?
Right.
Not that he doesn't deserve it, but the whole argument against paying anyone that much money is that you're taking it away from other people who can get it. There's a salary cap. You can't pay everyone. Anyway,
Blake. Don't you think that's more due to Goff getting paid a lot?
Yes.
Also, someone with arthritis in their knee, just like, I'd never understand that. And Brandon Cooks is getting paid. I mean, they traded it somehow because Bill O'Brien was the GM.
Yeah. They had a lot of bad business in there. There was, hey, Grant, you want to do one more real quick? There was one good one.
Hey, you're the one with classitude, not me. I'm not getting grades, man. I haven't gotten grades in a long. I just get money.
I'm grading you right now, Grant. I'm going to give you.
How am I doing? I got an F- yesterday.
Give you a B+.
I got an F- yesterday. That was all. I take full responsibility for that loss. I told him to sign Tom Brady, but I don't think I was really forceful enough about it. I could have been.
You want to talk about that real quick? You want to address that?
Yeah, this could all have been avoided. We're all saying, hey, well, at the end of the year, the Niners got to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo and get a guy. Well,
right. And I've been mentioning Matthew Stafford and Matt Ryan, who are kind of Band-Aids on a problem because they're still 32 and 36 years old. So you're only going to have them for so long. And Matthew Stafford has had injuries in his past, and he does have a back problem. So who knows how long you keep getting Matthew Stafford. And I don't think Matt Ryan will go till 45 like Tom Brady. I think he's going to he's starting to slow down a little bit already. So in that case, I know it would have been a gutsy decision. It would have been a real tough decision to move off of a guy by hook or crook, whatever you think of him. You went to the Super Bowl with this guy as your quarterback. To move off of him like that would be cold-blooded. It would be a hard decision. But I think Tom Brady at that time, he's 43 years old, but you were still year to year on Jimmy, right? You weren't long-term set on Jimmy being quarterback from 28 to 40, right? This year was supposed to be another year of evaluation. You could have had the same evaluation with a guy who has a bigger arm than Jimmy, a better arm than Jimmy, is more accurate and is smarter than Jimmy, and just a better quarterback than Jimmy even last year. You could have had that same year-to-year evaluation. You wouldn't have had to give up the picks to get a guy like Stafford or Ryan that you're going to have to do now. And you could have probably kept him for year 44. And then for year 45, even if he washes out and totally sucks, you could have picked a quarterback early in the draft. And
which is what you have to do anyway now.
Yeah.
Blake, you may not realize, and I don't know if you follow the Niners closely during the offseason, but Tom Brady, his first choice was the Niners. He basically was like, hey, guys, I'm from here. It would really, I like what you got going on. It would mean a lot. And the Niners were like, ooh, yeah.
Well, I feel like with that too, like maybe it's a little revisionist, but do you remember him in the playoffs and just all of last year? Like, he was pretty unspectacular. I know they did not have weapons, and they had Marshall Newhouse as a tackle, and I mean, he was on the Packers, and that dude is like just
so bad.
I don't know how he's still in the league. Like, when we caught him, I was like, this might be the worst offensive tackle I've seen. And then I heard he was starting to
use that guy.
He was starting on the Patriots. And I'm like, geez, Tom's gonna get killed. But no, I like in the playoffs against the Titans, when you watched him play, were you like, if someone asked you at that time, do you think you would have been like, oh yeah, I really want this guy as my quarterback?
Yes, I said it all offseason. To me, it was like, dude, he's got Julian Edelman, and that's it. His run game stinks. He lost Trent Brown, lost a couple more offensive linemen, and he had 34-year-old Julian Edelman. I mean, I think it was pretty clear that you put him with Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Brown, things would be different.
The weapons were there, but
yeah. Go ahead, and then I'll make
the weapons definitely weren't there, but like also when you're watching Jimmy, were you thinking like, wow, Tom Brady would do just like so much better than this guy, especially because like they were winning games. Like they were winning games.
Oh, okay. I felt that way in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, I gotta say.
Yeah. I thought, because I think I'm right in the middle of you guys. We're both kind of talking about different points of it. Is that I think he would have thrown maybe if Jimmy threw 13 picks, he'd have thrown 8. And I think he would have made a few more big time throws than Jimmy just because he has a better arm than Jimmy. And I think I would have taken that. I mean, again, it's real hard to look back on how it felt in March of last year because I was still recovering from the agony I suffered February 4th or February 2nd or whatever the day of. We will not mention it, but I was still recovering from the agony. I don't know if I had turned on Jimmy at that point. I was definitely real disappointed with how he played in the Super Bowl. It would have been an impossible decision. It would have been a gutsy one, but it would have been the right decision ultimately. I guess we can say with 2020 hindsight now. And my friend, real quick, I just want to answer this question because my buddy's been throwing it in the Outsiders 408's been throwing it in the comment section like for the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Can Kyle switch his scheme to complement a future mobile QB? I say we answer that and then call it.
Yeah.
All right.
He did it with RG3. He did it.
Right.
He did it. Does he want to? Well, he did it when he was an offensive coordinator, and that's the thing. They didn't want RG3. Dan Snyder forced RG3 on the Shanahans, and Kyle got creative because, it's a survival league. If he's running the show, is he going to bring in a quarterback like that? Recent history suggests no.
Okay. Can we talk about at least the nuance to a mobile QB? Because he answered the question. I think Eric Branch asked him the question this week, and I thought his answer was extremely valid. The landscape of the league when guys like RG3 and Kaepernick were mobile QBs was that those guys weren't the best at processing information or throwing. Mm-hmm. That's changed. Mm-hmm. That is totally changed. The mobile guys today are much better throwers than those guys and are making more plays off schedule and stuff like that with like Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. It's the new age quarterback. And I think if you can get those guys, you don't have to adjust this scheme. They can run this exact offense. They can probably run it a little more because they can throw the ball down the field better. And then they can give you that added element of now you can run a couple read option plays in the red zone and throw the defense off kilter that way. And then you can have the plays where when Kyle calls a play action and you get the free blitzer and it doesn't work, instead of eating the sack for a 10-yard loss going to 2nd and 20, maybe that guy makes the guy miss and gets you 5 yards on a run or throws a 10-yard, makes a great 10-yard throw and gets you a first down. So I think absolutely he can adjust to a mobile QB, and I don't think he would have to even adjust his scheme. I think it would be a seamless fit.
Who do you think would be like someone that would be available that would fit under that that category? Because the only guy that comes to mind that would be like maybe you could somehow get him would be Dak. But do you want to pay Dak?
Too expensive. Nope.
I don't want to pay Dak.
Who realistically could be like under that prototype of like a mobile QB?
He's not even super mobile. I mean,
he's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
He can run.
Right. I think there's even nuance to the mobile conversation. The guy doesn't have to be a runner. It's just, can he move out of the pocket when necessary, avoid a hit, and make a couple extra throws a game? Because Kyle's going to do that.
Ryan Fitzpatrick can do that. Yeah, exactly.
That's why I say Matthew Stafford. That's why I say Matthew Stafford, because Matthew Stafford is more than capable of doing that. I know Matthew Stafford, Blake, doesn't put any fear in you as a Packers fan, so you wouldn't put fear in you. But Kyle Shanahan would make it work. And we're just talking about 2 to 3 plays a game, because Kyle is pretty much perfect for like the first 18 to 25 throws. So if you throw the ball 28 times, Kyle is going to get you 23 great throws and easy throws in there. So I don't think it's really a lot to ask.
Vish, you're late for class. I'm very disappointed. You're late for class. It started.
There's no attendance.
What's that? There's no attendance? Okay.
No.
Well, I'm late for class. I got to go to work. This has been a good hour and a half show. Blake, thanks for coming on. None of us actually predicted a winner, but it's a little early, so that's fine. And
all right,
we'll have you on again. We'll have you on again soon to rehash the game. What do you say?
I'll do Niners. I'll take the Niners on Thursday.
All right. Sounds good. All right. I don't know who I'm taking. I'm not locking that in yet. But guys, thanks for watching. And before we leave,